Cafe. I'm your host, Chris Mahan. Each weekday, I give you some tips and strategies you can use to become more successful, both in your personal life and in your business life. So when you get an opportunity, perhaps a short break at work, enjoy one of these 5-minute videos. If you've got a cup of coffee or some other favorite beverage, that's all the better. Let's jump into today's video. One of the many things that I've done in my life is I drove a semi-truck. Did that for about a year. Drove all across the United States, enjoyed the great open roads out in the West, suffered through some of the narrow streets and roads in the Northeast with tight corners, even drove in New York City once. And after that experience, I remember telling my driver manager, if I never drive in New York City again, it will still be too soon. It was quite a headache, if you can imagine, driving a truck with a 53-foot trailer through the streets of New York City. Well, you're probably wondering, why tell you something about that? Well, I'm sure that you can relate, or you can at least imagine what it would be like to be in a cab driving by yourself for 8 to 10 hours. I mean, it gets a little bit lonely, gets a little bit boring. And so you begin to play some mind games and you try to do things to break up the monotony. Again, if you've ever traveled on a U.S. interstate, you know what it's like to drive through a construction zone. And you know, in those construction zones, they have those construction cones that they put like down the middle of the road. Let's say they're working on one shoulder and they want you in the other lane. And so they put those cones down the middle of the road. Well, I would come across a lot of construction sites during my travels in a semi. And oftentimes I would find myself driving through a construction zone for miles and miles without seeing any evidence of construction or seeing any construction workers. And when that happens, well, there's a little bad boy tendency in me sometimes. And that was one of them. And so I would decide to try to get my semi-trailer as close to those cones as I possibly could. Didn't want to hit them, but I wanted to see if I could blow them down, or maybe the vacuum underneath the truck, maybe suck one underneath the truck. Can't say that it ever happened, but I tried. Well, that reminds me of a story of a wise man that was teaching a young entrepreneur how to make good on every opportunity. And he said to the young man, he said, imagine if I had 1 million traffic cones and we're here in this big parking lot, maybe the parking lot of a stadium or something like that. And he says, I've placed all 1 million of those cones here in this parking place. And I tell you that under one of those cones is $1 million in cash. How many of those cones would you turn over? And of course, the young man answered, all of them. Now, you're probably wondering what construction cones have to do with your business. Good question. I'm glad you asked. I want you to see the analogy that I'm trying to make here. A construction cone is an opportunity. For you in business, the opportunity could be to follow up on leads that you've recently received. It could be picking up the phone and making cold calls. It could be attending a networking event at your local chamber or some other type of networking event. It could be trying to reactivate some of your past customers who are now inactive. The traffic cone that I'm talking about is simply an opportunity to look underneath it and to find some kind of a treasure. What are you willing to do to find those treasures for your business, to find those opportunities that will help your business to grow and to move to the next level? How many of those opportunities will you take advantage of? I hope that you'll be like that young man who simply said, all of them. This is Chris Mahan with Success Café, wishing you the best success in both your life and business. Until next time, see ya.